So who's going to need flood insurance now? What do you do? 516-393-1800 is our number. litalks@news12.com is our email. Joining me tonight in the studio is Dennis A. Miller, also known as the Flood Man. Dennis is a flood insurance specialist from Long Beach and heads up one of the largest flood insurance agencies in New York State. Dennis, good to have you back. And we're also going to be joined by phone by Jim Callahan. He's the commissioner of Nassau's Office of Emergency Management. So, Dennis, why the change?
Well, this change we talked about a year ago.
Yeah,
back in 2008, we knew this was coming, and like Jim said in the lead-in, elevations and change. There hasn't been a flood zone change in a long time now. So in 1997, there was a small one, and they felt that it was necessary to bring more people into the flood zone.
All right, we've got Jim Callahan on the phone now. Jim, welcome to the program. This is all about FEMA, right? The Federal Emergency Management Administration. They do this, right?
Yeah, yes, it's all FEMA. The county has nothing to do with it. We just like the residents were told what FEMA wanted to do, and we're just trying to educate the residents to get flood insurance, and especially to take advantage of getting flood insurance before the maps become effective and the rates go up higher.
Yeah. What's changed? What have been some of the big changes because of these new flood maps?
Well, 28,000 structures inside Nassau County that weren't in the flood zones now are in the flood zones. So that's a big change for us in the county. Especially hard hit with the areas of Valley Stream and Woodmere, and as Mr. Miller knows, Long Beach has really become affected as well, where you had properties that were not in the flood zone in Long Beach, and now I would hesitate to say that almost all of Long Beach is in the flood zone. Yeah,
I'm curious though, how does FEMA make that determination of what's in a floodplain and what's not in a floodplain now?
Well, FEMA sets those parameters, but it's basically based upon elevation. It's based upon the elevation of your property as to sea level. There are properties that are more inland that are in, and there are properties that are on the coast because they're up higher that are not.
So even if you've never had a flooding problem in your neighborhood, your house, all of a sudden you might find yourself in a floodplain?
Yeah, and I would hazard to guess that most of the properties that have been changed never have had a flooding issue, for as long as the house has been there.
All right, now this is not something you can challenge. This is what it is, right?
Well, there was a period in which you could challenge it, and Mr. Miller and I had attended a number of meetings, and we had done some education through the county legislators about this, and we advised people that there was a time period where they could individually challenge their homes, that they had to go get a survey and get an elevation estimate and make an application for FEMA, challenging their individual houses. But there really was nothing that could be done on a larger level. It was only individual houses if you wanted to say that your house was higher than the map had listed.
Okay, so Jim, thank you. So Dennis, basically the way it is now is if your house is in one of those designated floodplains, you have to get flood insurance. Is that the way it works?
It does. I want to add one thing, though. You can get a LOMA, an L-O-M-A. You go on to the FEMA.gov website and the letter of map amendment, and you can still challenge individually even after the flood zone change. But I would recommend that you purchase a flood policy first.
Okay. Now, if you've got homeowners insurance, let's get this straight. That does not automatically include flood insurance, does it?
No. So your homeowner's policy does not cover water that comes up. It covers water that comes down, rain, pipe break. But water that comes up, that's flood insurance.
Because if you didn't know, floods are considered to be the #1 natural disaster in the United States.
Actually, I do know that.
Well, I know you know that, but I know folks at home might not know.
It is the #1, and a lot of these people that are in that Zone X, that good flood zone, have had floods. More people in October of '05 in the Zone X in all of North Woodmere. Most of those people didn't have flood insurance. And that's the Zone X, the good preferred flood zone that people are changing out of.
All right, now how do you read these flood maps? They're posted online.
That NassauNYFloodMap.com website is a good website. You simply type in your address, you click it, and it tells you the old map and the new map. It's very easy. You call me, I'll tell you it's very easy. And it'll tell you that you're in a Zone X now, and that if you're changing to a Zone AE, and that's the key, the three letters.
Yeah, okay, but that's what gets so confusing.
But you don't have to know it.
All these different zones and the letters and high risk and low risk. The map is that simple now that you know exactly what you're dealing with?
If it doesn't say X, and it says AE, you're changing.
Okay. Let's go to one of our viewers now who I think needs a little bit of help here. Diane from Bayshore. Welcome, Diane.
Hi.
How can we help you?
Well, I did go on today to look at the report online, and I was a little confused because I know I'm in Zone X, I'm in Bayshore, but it says SFHA, and it says effective no, and then the proposed is yes. So it kind of confuses me.
All right, so first of all, SFHA is Special Flood Hazard Area.
Right.
Dennis, what does that mean?
It really doesn't affect you. Really, what the most important thing is the zone. If it says Zone X, you're golden. Perhaps you should purchase a flood policy, but that's the zone you want to be in.
In Zone X.
Correct.
Well,
Go ahead, Diane.
Thank you.
Does that
You're
answer
very
your
welcome.
question?
That answers it.
Okay. You know, Dan, you tell me that the Nassau map is a little easier than the Suffolk map.
Yes, it is. I've had trouble with the Suffolk map for some reason. It's just not as easy. However, Suffolk County is a lot different. You don't have that many people going into the flood zone. You have thousands of people coming out of the flood zone. A bonus, a good thing for Suffolk County. There are a lot of people who are going to be saving a lot of money for flood insurance because they are naturally higher elevated. Nassau County, it's a different story. You have the 25,000 people going into the flood zone now.
So, Jim, a little bit more straightforward in Nassau County, but if people are confused, can they contact Nassau County in some way to find out?
My office at area code 516-573-0636.
Okay, 573-0636. We'll put that on news12.com as well.
Yeah, we're willing to help you, guide you through the map process. We've done this for probably about 1,000 residents already over the past year. If you don't have the internet, if you don't have internet access, we'll print out the map for you, mail it to you with a letter explaining what the changes are and what you need to look at on your individual map.
And Jim, can you also help? Can you also help people answer questions about flood insurance if they do wind up having to buy it?
Sure, but they should probably go to their broker as well and get their answers from the broker as well.
Yeah, because you can get flood insurance through your broker.
Yeah, you can get it either through the broker or through FEMA directly, either way.
Jim, thank you so much for joining us tonight. I appreciate it.
No problem.
James Callahan, Commissioner of Nassau's Office of Emergency Management. All right, who do we have? Rosemary from Farmingdale. Hey, Rosemary, welcome.
Yes, hi.
Go ahead with your question.
I have a home at Gilgo Beach, and I agree that the Suffolk County maps are hard to determine. So is that going to be affected?
I think we can assume that
anything with beach
in
it.
Gilgo Beach, you are already in the flood zone.
Yeah.
It's not affecting you. You're not changing unless it's becoming worse, which is possible. You could go into that VE, Victor Edward flood zone, which is a velocity flood zone, which we don't even want to talk about now over at Gilgo. But there's no Zone X's in Gilgo Beach, so as far as being affected, unless it becomes a VE, the answer is no.
So if you're in Gilgo Beach, you should already have flood insurance.
Correct. If you have a mortgage, you're required to carry flood insurance.
Okay.
All right, so if you have the mortgage and you're in Gilgo Beach already, Rosemary, it looks like you're okay.
Okay, thank you so much.
All right, thank you very much. Let's go to, is it Scott from Huntington is next? Welcome, Scott. Go ahead.
Hi, how are you guys?
Good.
My question is, how do they determine who is in the flood zone?
Yeah.
At this point, it's very simple. By going to that website, that NassauNYFloodMap.com, you type in your address, and those maps are already set. They are already set. It's not a question of how anymore, or elevation, or that time period is over. If it says that you're changing, at this point your flood zone is changing. That website is excellent if you're in Nassau. It'll tell you right away if your house is changing flood zones.
Yes, Scott, supposedly this has been done all scientifically with measures of topography and changes in the earth and all of those things. And elevations, and that's determined who is susceptible now on the island.
Okay, I appreciate that. I actually own a home in Huntington.
Okay.
And I'm actually on the map right now, and I think I'm in it by about 3 houses.
And that's a very interesting thing. I'm finding a lot of people like that. And, if you want to take a chance, you can fill out that LOMA form online at FEMA.gov. It might cost you a little bit with a surveyor, but maybe it can take you out. Not everyone's going to win that, I promise you, and no promises. But you can do it online. It's not a bad idea.
Well, to save a couple of $1,000, it might be worth a shot.
I think so, too. I agree with you.
Thank you very much.
Hey, Scott, thanks so much for calling in. Appreciate it. We're going to take a break, take more phone calls in a minute. New FEMA flood maps. What does it mean for Long Island homeowners? Do you need now to buy flood insurance? We'll find out. 516-393-1800 is the number. We're going to take more calls when we come back.